Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Thomas Linley. I'm a deep sea researcher and I work at Armatus Oceanic, which is a deep sea consultancy company. And I'm also a visiting researcher at Newcastle University. And I like to try and be a spokesperson for deep sea fish, really. I think they get a bit of a hard rap. So I'm going to try and convince you today that there are no monsters down there and that deep sea fish are actually kind of amazing, really, really cool. And you shouldn't be scared of them. You should be impressed by them, I think is the angle I'm trying to go for. We love stories about the deep sea. We love the idea that there's monsters and that it's an alien place full of horrors and nightmares. And popular media sort of plays up to that, really, as you can see by these headlines here. The same sort of language keeps appearing, these monsters and aliens and nightmares and terrors and things like that. And it's because we quite enjoy it. You know, we click on these things uh, because they spark our imagination and they kind of tell us what we already expected to find out. They tell us that what we know, the deep sea is horrible and full of nightmares. And there are, well, scary-ish ones out there, I suppose, but the media is a little bit careful in how they present those to you. Most of the scary ones are tiny and fragile. The images you see tend to be very, very zoomed in. Same with the videos as well. And actually these tend to be small and very fragile animals. And most of them are actually midwater rather than sort of very deep sea fish. And the weird shapes to their bodies and the things that creep us out about them tend to be more about living in darkness and in a three-dimensional environment more than being deep per se. They have a really unusual habitat, sort of never reaching a boundary, existing, floating freely in space and trying to find food and a mate and things like that in that environment. So that's what shapes their bodies more than maybe traditionally being deep sea. And we don't really need to worry about them. You're never going to meet. We're going to talk a bit later about the incredible conditions these animals live in, and as such, you don't have to worry about ever bumping into them. All those scary articles can start making you feel that maybe deep sea fish are the way they are just to upset you. Maybe they're only like that to be scary. But the interesting thing as a biologist is once you look at these animals, you can start to see why they are the way they are, and everything makes sense. Nothing is there just to be upsetting. So yeah, they have some really big teeth and mouths considering the size of their body. But that has a reason. They might go for months between meals. They might not actually run into another animal for months on end. And so if they run into something, they need to be able to basically make it food. If you've got a really big mouth and big teeth to help you capture something quite large, that makes the amount of food, the variety of food that you can eat much, much wider. So it hedges your bets, really. It gives you a better chance of bumping into something that you can eat. And if you eat bigger things, then they'll keep you full for longer. So you can actually go longer between meals then. So that makes perfect sense, creepy as they are. They do sort of have these pointy, sort of spindly, long filaments to their fins and bodies often, but those actually help them stay up in the water. They add drag, so it means they have to use less energy to keep up in the water, so they could just sort of drift there almost like a snowflake. They can also work like whiskers as well. They can look for vibrations in the water, and so an animal swimming past will sort of trip these triggers and let them know that there's something there. They can look a little bit skeletal. They can look a little bit like a skeleton, sort of pointy and bony looking. But that's because they live on very little energy. They can't afford to build muscular bodies, and so they just have enough bones to hold them up, really, to hold their shape, and then have very little muscle, and that can give them this sort of pointy, bony appearance. And they can come across as looking a bit sort of slimy, and again, that's the similar thing. It's their body being very low density, being very light, so that they don't have to work to stay up in the water, so they can just sort of float there. And so they reduce the bones and they reduce the muscles in their body so that they're as buoyant as water. They don't have to work to swim. So I bet everyone knows about the blobfish. I bet this is probably the closest thing we have to a deep sea celebrity. And it's this unfair picture that floats around the internet. It's become, well, very much a meme now. And this is what a lot of people think of when they think of deep sea fish. They either think of the pointy, scary ones we've just talked about, or they think about this sad pink little fella. But I think it's got a reason to be sad. I think that's had a very bad day. So most fish have a gas bladder to stop them sinking. They have like this internal balloon that keeps them up in the water. But the blobfish doesn't have that. So what it does is it reduces the density of its body. It fills its body with sort of this jelly-like flesh, which is the same density as the water. So they weigh the same amount as the water. And so that helps them to keep up in the water while using very little energy. But the problem is when they're not supported by that water, they collapse and they look a little bit sad, which is what we're seeing going on here. So let's make this fair. Let's expose me to the same things that blobfish has been through, and let's see if it's fair to make fun of it at the end of all that. I think it's had quite a tough time. So if you were going to give me a blobfish photo shoot for my big day, for my day being an internet meme, to start off by sending me into space. Here is a dramatic reenactment of what I'd look like in space, because I don't know what you do in space. That, apparently. So take me up into space. You're going to have to fire me out the airlock. So rapid depressurization. I've gone from 1 atmosphere of pressure suddenly to the vacuum of space without much warning, fired out the airlock. That's going to do some damage. That's going to cause lots of gases within my dissolved within my body to become gas again, basically. So like opening a can of fizzy drink, suddenly all these bubbles appear, and that does a lot of damage. That's not very nice. Then you're going to have to drag me across the surface of the moon in a mesh bag for a few kilometers. So that simulates being caught in a net. As I've been saying, these animals are really fragile. They're really low density. That's how they cope with so little food, and they manage to stay floating up in the water. So they're really fragile, and dragging them along in a bag does a lot of damage. That blobfish is only pink because all of its skin has been rubbed away. And then finally, the blobfish is no longer supported by the water. It's low density, it's a soft animal, and it's usually supported by the water and that pressure. And then suddenly it's being taken out into the air and slapped on a bench, and somebody's taking a photo of it, and so it collapses, really. So at the end of all that, you can take a picture of me, and I won't put up what that might look like because it would be horrific. It would be something worthy of Halloween. And then say I look a bit sad and a bit gross. Well, of course I look a bit sad and a bit gross. You know, I've just been absolutely destroyed by all these processes I've been put through. And so maybe we have a distorted view of deep sea fish. We kind of want there to be monsters. You know, even before we could go to the deep sea, we had stories of sea monsters in our ancestry, and lots of different cultures have that as well. We want there to be monsters in the deep sea. We kind of like the idea of that, even though it scares us a bit. And until very recently, everything we've known about the deep sea fish was from these damaged corpses. You know, the big expeditions of the 1950s and 60s, they were only able to trawl up these animals. And it was incredibly exciting. We learned that these animals existed for the first time. But it also meant that our view of them was shaped by these damaged corpses, these damaged bodies of animals that had been through all those forces I just outlined. So I think we need to think again about the poor blobfish. I think we need to see it in its own terms and on its own turf, really, where it's not been exposed to these incredible forces that its body wasn't adapted to cope with. So in life, down at 2,000 meters in the South Pacific, sort of around New Zealand, places like that, the blobfish, it's not a beautiful fish. I think it's got a nice bit of character though to it, but it's not the horrible, sad animal we're used to. This is the blobfish in life, and this is how we should think about the blobfish, not what we've done to it, but this living animal going about its day. Let's have a look at some of the deepest fish that we know, and do it properly. Modern technology has allowed us to take really good cameras and lighting down to where the fish are. So rather than trawling them up and doing all sorts of damage, we can offer a little bit of food and attract the animals to our cameras, and we can see them basically how they're meant to be seen, in life, showing natural behaviors, and to show us that they're just animals doing what animals do, living and feeding and surviving in an environment so extreme we would not have a chance down there. One of the deepest living types of fishes we see are the cusk eels. These are long, sort of tapering fish. There's quite a lot of species. They're quite well adapted to the deep sea. But out our baited landers, where we put some mackerel out, like you can see here, and attract animals to our cameras, we tend to attract these Bassositis cusk eels. And they're not particularly interested in the bait, even though they'll try and have a snap at it sometimes. They're actually there to feed on the amphipods, as Johanna and Heather were telling you about. They're quite good little energy packets, so they're predators of amphipods, really. And they seem to respond to the movement of the amphipod as they get sort of too close to them and open this enormous mouth to suck them in. The very deepest fish are my absolute favourites. They're the snailfish. So this is the deepest known fish. This is Pseudoliparus swarai, which is the Mariana Trench snailfish. And we were part of the team that discovered these guys back in 2014. And since we've been back with much nicer cameras to get a much better look at these animals. So we put the camera really close here, but they're not actually very big. Their slow movement can make them feel big, but they're probably less than a foot long, so maybe they'd fit on the palm of your hand. I might be biased, but I think they're quite cute looking, and I quite enjoy watching them. They seem to have quite a lot of personality. And they seem really adapted to living in the deep ocean trenches. So where we've got the regular sort of 4,000 meter depth seabed, the abyssal plains, sometimes you get these trenches, these cracks in the seabed that go down to almost 11,000 in the Mariana Trench as the deepest point. And these animals seem really well adapted to living in there. So they go deeper than any of the other fish, so they've got the place to themselves, they don't have to worry about predators. And the same as the cuskills, they feed mainly on the amphipods, or at least when we're recording them they do. They do have eyes, but they're probably not very useful. They're probably more for sort of hotter, colder, detecting light. They probably don't form much of an image. There's not a lens. But the way they find their prey will be a sense of smell and taste. There's lots of taste buds over those fins, and you'll see them sort of raking those fins across the seabed and the thing that they're interested in. You'll also notice they seem to have quite puckered mouths. They have these sort of dimples along the sides of their chin and the upper jaw. And these are sensory pores. They're picking up the vibration in the water. So that's how they home in on their prey. They feel the vibration of an amphipod swimming around their mouth, and then that lets them snap like this. They're quite pruny looking. They're quite gelatinous. Again, they're being held up by the pressure of the water, so they don't need strong bodies. And as you go deeper, it gets harder and harder to make hard materials. It gets difficult to put the calcium into the bones, say, for instance. So their bones tend to be reduced, and they tend to be quite soft and cartilaginous, like the bones of a shark. And the only places where they really make an effort to build hard parts are the only places that's really necessary, which is their teeth. So they have gripping teeth along their jaws, which allows them to get hold of the amphipods when they snap at them. But they also have what we call pharyngeal jaws. They have teeth in the back of their throat that grind up the amphipods to make them easier to swallow. So they have probably quite a nice life. There's quite a few of them. They seem quite social. And I think they totally go against the idea we have of a deep sea fish. I mean, this is the very deepest fish. This is as far as the fish can go. And they are not the monsters that people would expect. Just to finish on, I'd like to plug a project we've been doing during lockdown. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Why isn't there a deep sea podcast? There's 30 Harry Potter podcasts, and not a single deep sea one. And some people really like the deep sea, so we made one. We saw a need and we went for it. So it's slightly light-hearted. We poke fun at the cliches. We like to explore why the deep sea is viewed in the way that it is. And so every month on the first Friday of the month, there'll be a new episode. We've had some amazing guests, and we've got some really big guests coming up. I'm not quite allowed to talk about it yet, but it's only going to get better. So if you found this interesting and you'd like to know more, it'd be lovely if you followed us and became a listener. And you can chat with us as well, pose us any questions. They might turn up on the podcast. And thank you very much for listening. This has been good fun. I hope it's maybe shifted your perception of deep sea fish. Thank you.